showed up for yourselves and for each other, so I'm glad you're here. I think I need my slideshow up. Oh, there it is. Is it on here? Where is it? Never mind. I see it. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting topic today, but before we get into this topic, I want to thank a few people who have made me be able to stand up here in front of you today. The first one I want to thank is my husband, Frank, who's in the background, the back row there. Frank is not involved in real estate investing. He has no interest in it at all. But he drove 7 hours to get here just to hear me speak, to show me he's proud of me. And not only that, he knows me so well that he showed up with a cooler bag full of Kind bars in my favorite flavors, because he says, I know you're not going to eat for 3 days. So here's a little snack bag, please eat. So thank you, Frank. I really appreciate you being here. Obviously, we have to thank the amazing Jim Ingersoll, because none of us would be in this room without Jim and Cheryl. So I met Jim and Cheryl on a real estate investing cruise in about 2015, and since then, Jim, you have always believed in me. You've always gotten me up here to do these things. I'm so honored to be your friend and Cheryl's friend. And you're going to make me cry. Can't even say enough nice things about you. Frank didn't make me cry, but I'm crying over you. Sorry, honey. All right. I want to remember a very special man who we lost in the last year or so, Dykes Bodiford. Dykes was one of my first mentors to be a real estate investor teacher. And he asked me to speak with him a couple of times a number of years ago, and that directly led to me being on this stage today. We lost Dykes, and he was an amazing man, an amazing mentor. How many of you knew Dykes or went to any of his events? Yeah, amazing. So I just want to remember Dykes while we're up here. I also want to thank my friend Quincy Long down there, because Quincy has taught me almost everything I know about self-directed IRA investing. And in fact, I met Dykes and Quincy for the first time when I was practicing law in Asheville, and someone said, please go learn about self-directed IRAs. So Quincy was teaching with Dykes at that class, and that started a friendship with both of them. And I have to say about Quincy, I've traveled a lot with Quincy, and I'm always inspired by Quincy's sense of adventure. He never complains about anything, and he does everything. It's just amazing to travel with him. Dave Steck, how many of you guys know Dave Steck? Not that many. So Dave Steck Chandler does. Dave Steck is a good friend of mine. And even though when I met him, I had been lending for about 10 or 15, probably 10 years, I met him at a Dykes event, and I joined his private lending mastermind. I spent 3 years learning from him, and man, did I learn a lot. I want to thank next, and I'm almost done with the thank yous, I promise. There's so many people I probably could thank, but I want to thank Wendy Sweet next. So Wendy is the sweet to my heart. The sweet to my heart. And thank you for having such a perfect last name to go with my last name, so we could use it for amazing marketing for the Sweetheart Mastermind and the Sweetheart Private Lending Institute. But seriously, Wendy, you have inspired me and helped me help so many people over the years. So thank you for being my friend and my mentor and just an all-around great person. And now my very last person, I'm going to embarrass the heck out of Patty Bain. Patty Bain, stand up. I'm going to make you stand up. She's not going to like me. She's going to get mad. Hi, Patty. Patty is a great friend of mine. I met her about 5 years ago when someone drug her to a mastermind at my house. We became friends, and then she became my most prolific borrower in my lending business, because Patty is a Class A contractor here in Richmond. She's literally flipped hundreds of homes in her career. I think Patty and I last year did $5 million worth of deals together, I as the lender and Patty as the flipper. And Patty started talking to me late last year about getting a little burnt out on the flipping space, and that was right about the same time I was deciding to ramp up my lending and take on other people to help me. And I said, Patty, you want to come work with me at Fair Oaks Funding? She said, absolutely. So thank you, Patty, because you're going to make this even better. I've been lending for 20 years, but I'm the most excited I've ever been right now. So thank you very much. All right. So as I mentioned, I've been doing these keynotes, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times. I can't remember how many. And every time Jim asks me to get up here, it's a little self-imposed pressure on me, because the keynote is supposed to be super inspirational, right? It's supposed to get you guys revved up, ready to kick off for this amazing event with all these speakers. But I, as the lawyer, always want the education. No, I got to teach you guys to make sure you're doing it right, Jeff Watson? We got to make sure you guys aren't getting yourselves in trouble. So I always try to strive this balance between inspiration and education. And when I found out that the theme of this year's talk was limitless, I was like, oh man, that's just all inspiration. And then I realized, no, it's not. Because you can't be limitless without the balance of risk mitigation. Because if you don't mitigate your risk, there's no way you're going to be limitless. No way at all. And you might remember, as Jim mentioned, that a few years ago, my keynote was about the magic of thinking big, which was based on that book by David Schwartz, The Magic of Thinking Big. And you might remember that I talked about that everything that we see today that we take for granted started out as someone's big idea, their limitless dream, right? Who thought you could tunnel highways through mountains? Who thought you could put spaceships up in the air? Who thought you could get a plane off the ground? Who thought there'd be Bitcoin or AI, all this stuff, right? So all those things that were the magic of thinking big, they were limitless. But I started realizing that all that limitless had to be balanced with risk mitigation. So let's take airplane travel, for instance. You guys know the first airplane got off the ground in 1903 by the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, which, by the way, is where we're having our next Sweetheart Mastermind in the Private Lending Institute. So when the Wright brothers were thinking about that airplane travel, I imagine that felt pretty limitless. Nobody had gotten anything heavier than air off the ground, ever. And I'm sure there were a lot of people saying it's absolutely impossible, it's never, ever going to happen, right? But the Wright brothers didn't let that stop them. They knew they could be limitless, and they kept working on it until they got a plane off the ground. Now think today, 122 years later, how much has airplane travel changed? And I'm going to throw some numbers out at you because I think it's become just about limitless. In 2023, there were 35.3 million commercial flights in 1 year. So from the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk to 35.3 million commercial flights worldwide. Airports handled 96 million aircraft movements, 96 movements of airplanes around on tarmacs. That's crazy. Over 8 trillion kilometers were flown by passengers, and 61.4 million tons of cargo were carried around the world, all from that little plane that took off at Kitty Hawk. Doesn't that seem amazing to you guys, how limitless that is? I think we can all be limitless, but to be truly limitless, we have to balance with risk mitigation. Air travel could not nearly be so limitless without risk mitigation, right? Think of all the things that have to happen to make air travel safe enough for people to want to get on an airplane or send their precious cargo on an airplane. Who's put their dogs on an airplane before? Have you been a nervous wreck? Because I have been. Scary, right? So for every plane that takes off, think about all that risk mitigation. Pilots, mechanics, air traffic controllers have to be trained extensively. There are checklists for everything. There's safety protocols. There's protocols for what happens when things go wrong, like drunk, unruly passengers who get crazy, or an engine fails, or any other of a myriad of things. So all those things are risk mitigation. And it's because of that that air travel could be so limitless, because without that, there'd be a lot of dead people on the ground, a lot of airplanes that didn't fly safely. So that's why I say we're going to balance inspiration with education. We're going to balance limitless with risk mitigation. And so my talk today is all about the risk mitigation. And some of you may do this really, really well. Some of you may be new and don't know what you don't know yet. And so bear with me because it's going to be detailed. And I talk fast in case you haven't noticed. And if I talk too fast, somebody throw their hand up, tell me to slow down. This topic could be a 4-hour minimum presentation, right, Jeff? 4-hour minimum. I have to squeeze this in about an hour now. So it's going to go fast. We might not get through every single slide, but you're going to learn a lot. So let me tell you a little bit about myself so you know why I can stand up here and say this to you. I've been an attorney for 34 years now. I am an investor since 2003 in residential real estate. I'm also in commercial real estate, self-storage development, retail spaces. I have some farmland. I'm a private lender. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I've been a 1031 qualified intermediary for a number of years. I'm not doing that now. I'm a retired lawyer and a retired QI, just so you know. I'm a consultant. I don't practice law anymore, but I'm still licensed. I just don't want to carry malpractice insurance and draft documents anymore. So I can consult. I did start an academy a couple years ago called the Aim Higher Academy. I have shut that down to focus on my lending and focus with Wendy Sweet on the Sweetheart Women in Real Estate Mastermind and the Sweetheart Private Lending Institute. And now I'm ramping up Fair Oaks Funding. So I have a lot of experience over, I graduated 30-some years ago in law school. So between representing clients and doing the real estate investing, I have learned a lot, and I've learned a lot from many of the people in this room. So that's why I'm up here talking to you, because I want you to do this safely. I want you to know the things I've learned. But I'm not your lawyer. I'm a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer, so we have to do the disclaimer. This is all just talk today and advice, but not legal advice. All right, become limitless. That's the topic or the theme of this week's event. To be limitless, we can make a lot of money. Oops, did my slides go away? There. We can make a lot of money, but it's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? Because we all need to pay for things. We all want to save for retirement. You have to keep that money. And you have to keep that money by not losing it to taxes or creditors or deals gone bad or scammers or any of those things, right? So how do we avoid those things that catch up to you before, during, and after your deals? How do we avoid those? Who remembers Wizard of Oz? How many are old enough to have watched The Wizard of Oz? Remember that? Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, lions and tigers and bears. Everybody was scared to death of the lions and tigers and bears. But when the curtain was pulled back, they were just cute little kittens and whatnot, right? So how do we avoid those things that we think of as the lions, tigers, and bears on our road to financial freedom? How do we avoid those things that seem like monsters under the bed or boogeymen in the closet? How do we avoid those? Because you've got to avoid them to be limitless in the real estate investing space. And that all comes down to risk mitigation. These, by the way, are what I think of as the monsters and the boogeymen, the lions, tigers, and bears. You've got to avoid bad mindsets, bad people, bad paperwork, bad property, bad decision-making, bad planning, bad management, bad taxes, bad exit strategies. There's a lot of potentially bad things. But once you're here in this room and you start to learn about them, you can easily avoid them and mitigate that risk. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about the different ways first that deals can go bad, because there are a lot of different ways they can go bad. You can have a bad mindset. Jim talked about mindset. One of the worst mindsets, I think, are self-limiting mindsets, if you don't believe you can do it. And I have struggled with that my entire life. You guys know about imposter syndrome, right? Half the time I'm like, what am I doing up here talking to everybody else? I shouldn't be up here. I'm an imposter. I'm pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. So don't let that be your mindset. I struggle with it, and I'm recovering. I'm not recovered. So bad mindset. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dream and what you can do. This screen keeps blanking out, Jeff. I'll have to go over here. Lack of knowledge and understanding. I cannot tell you, particularly as a lawyer for 30 years, how many times I've seen people jump into deals they really don't understand. They don't understand the process, they don't understand the paperwork, and so they just don't understand the fundamentals of that type of deal. And if you don't understand the fundamentals, you're not going to do it right. They've jumped into the deep end before they know how to swim. I've seen poor due diligence or no due diligence, right? People who don't understand what they need to do to vet that deal. Poor structure. Maybe the due diligence was great, but people don't really understand the nature of the relationship of the parties. And so the structure of the deal isn't right. The paperwork's not right because they don't know what they don't know. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Poor management. There are people who get in a good deal. It's underwritten properly, structured properly, but not managed properly. People fall asleep behind the wheel. They're not paying attention. They're not doing what they need to do to keep it managed well. Who's had someone go rogue in their life, a business partner or somebody else? You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, but I have. It's no fun, is it? It's no fun when somebody you trusted goes rogue. It happens. You can have outside market changes. COVID, lumber prices going crazy, government regulation, other black swan events. Or, the worst one, you can be the victim of a scammer. Is Vina in the room? There's Vina in the back. Vina Jones-Cox and John Heyer did an excellent 2 or 2.5 hour presentation on how to avoid scammers, and they graciously shared their slides with me to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I cannot go in that in depth. You'll get about 10 minutes of scammers, how to avoid scammers. But we all probably in this room know someone who's been a victim of a scammer in the last few years. They seem to be coming out of the woodwork, so we have to make sure that we try to avoid scammers at all costs, because that is the one thing that is usually not fixable. If you've been intentionally misled, cheated, or stolen from, that's almost not fixable. Okay, so to become limitless, you have to pay attention before the deal, during the deal, and after the deal. And this is why when people say, hey, some real estate investing is truly passive, I don't think that's really true. I don't think anything is 100% passive. Even if I take on a passive investor in my lending business, I sure hope they're vetting me and what I do and what I know. They've got to look into it. They can't just trust me blindly. Nobody should trust anybody blindly, not even your family or your best friend. All right, so how do we start? I'm going to whip through these fast because I want to get to the real meat of this. So obviously, right mindset, we talked about that. Believe in yourself, think big. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I have seen several people who've gotten way in over their heads because their ego did not allow them to ask for help. It's not bad to ask for help. There are no stupid questions, ever. No stupid questions. If you have a question in your head about how something should be done, find someone who's done it successfully and ask them. Use these networking times to do that. No stupid questions. Operate with 100% integrity. I've told my kids, they're all in their 20s and 30s now, that your integrity is the one thing no one can forcibly take from you. But if you give it away, it's almost impossible to get it back. Protect your integrity with everything you have. Every bit of your soul, protect your integrity and know your value. When you know your value, by the way, you protect your integrity more, in my opinion. Don't do anything that doesn't feel authentic to you. Like, I did one flip like 20 years ago. It was a disaster. I mean, I only lost $5,000, but it was a small property. That wasn't authentic to me. I'm not a flipper. That's not my mindset. I don't like it. Be aware of false friends and gurus. By the way, I might be up here, but I am not your guru. You guys know Tony Robbins who said that. I am not your guru. I'm trying to help, but I'm not a guru. Don't listen to the naysayers who can't tell you can't do it, but listen to those people who try to help you do it right. There's a difference, right? And by the way, how many people in here think that the naysayers who say you can't do it are really just jealous of what you are doing? Right? That's what I think. What business is it of theirs to tell you you can't do something? They're not you. And it's none of your business what others think of you. Frank and I say that all the time. If I start to get upset, oh my gosh, I think they think this about me, he'll remind me, it's none of your business what they think of you. Do you and do it well, and don't worry about what anybody thinks of you. Become knowledgeable. Whatever type of investing you're doing, learn the fundamentals, because once you know the fundamentals, you can start to spot the threats to your success. Find a mentor. Find someone who's done this before. I hear an echo. Do you guys hear an echo, or is it just me? I think I'm too close to that. Find a mentor. Intern with someone. Work with someone who's done what you want to do. Be in rooms like this. Obviously, that goes without saying. And find the people that you want to work with that you know, like, and trust. You can read this slide. I'm not going to go through it all, but you guys know how to find people or you wouldn't be here right now. And remember that not every lead is a deal, right? We can get leads all day long, but what are the actual deals? Because the deal is what you want. So in order to determine if something is a lead or a deal, this is what you have to do. You first have to know what you're doing so that you can identify the risks, assess the likelihood of whether that risk is going to occur in that deal. And then once you've decided it's worth going forward, you have to engage in risk management strategies. So you have to either avoid the deal, and that's deciding it's not worth going forward, change your plan or avoid it altogether. You have to reduce the likelihood or the impact of that risk. Maybe you shift that risk to someone else, like an insurance company or to another party through a contract. Or you just accept and acknowledge the risk as it is and move forward anyway if you feel like it's not too bad of a risk for what you want to do. And if you can't adequately manage that risk, then don't do the deal. Remember that not every lead is a deal, and I'm going the wrong way. And sometimes the best deal are the ones that you don't do. Who believes that? Sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't do, right? So it's the ones that keep you out of trouble when you've assessed the risk and said it's not worth it. So this gets to be the unsexy part, by the way. The inspiration about Limitless, that's sexy. Making money, that's sexy. The due diligence is not sexy, but we're going to talk about it anyway. For every lead, you have to vet the people, the property, and the paperwork. Do not skip a single step. You never know where those lions, tigers, and bears, boogeymen, and monsters are going to be in this process. Do not skip a step. You got to plan the deal well, you've got to execute it well, manage it well, and have multiple exit strategies. I don't know if any of you in this room have had this happen, but I am in the vacation rental space. It's one of my types of investment. I've been in it since 2006, before I even heard about it. I got into it because I wanted to use the property in downtown Asheville a few nights a week because I was divorced and my ex had the kids, and I wanted to go play in Asheville. So I turned it into a vacation rental, renovated a building and did that. Well, guess what? Those are now regulated away in North Carolina. I'm grandfathered in, but people who wanted to come in and do it later cannot do it now in Asheville. So if that was somebody's only model was the money for a vacation rental and all of a sudden they were wiped out, I hope they had a different exit strategy that worked for the numbers. All right, excuse me. So, know thyself, thy market, and thy numbers. This is important. You have to underwrite realistically. I am fairly conservative when I underwrite. Some people are bigger risk takers than I am. I'm pretty conservative. You need to know if you have the resources, the allies, and the knowledge to do what you're doing. Know your market. So when you're more hyper-local, it helps. And if you're not hyper-local, then find a way to know your market. Run your numbers and run them again. Has anybody besides me ever done a fat finger math error and you get a number that's not really the right number? Yeah, so run your numbers several times. Build the right team and figure out how you're going to pay for it. Don't rush into a deal. We've already gone through this. So this last bullet point, trust but verify. I usually say I'm going to verify then trust. That's a little skeptical of me. So let's talk about what we need to do to vet the people. Are you guys hearing this echo, or is it just me? You're hearing it? Am I standing too close to this speaker, Jeff? My mic? I'm fine. Okay. Thank you, Bill Cook. I recognize that voice anywhere. Didn't know where it was coming from, but I see you. Okay. One of the biggest mistakes that I see, and I've been helping people for over 30 years get out of mistakes, is that people don't pay attention to the type of relationship they're in. I'll give you an example. I have some friends who came to me and said, hey, we have a problem. We loaned over $1 million to an investor, and things are going south. He's not communicating. We need to basically take the property back. Can you tell us how we do that? I said, well, let me see your paperwork. They'd come to my farm in Kentucky. I said, let me see the paperwork. They showed me the paperwork. I said, you're not a lender. They said, of course we are. He said he was borrowing $1 million from us. I said, this paperwork is an LLC operating agreement where you have no management rights, you have no authority, you have no collateral, you have nothing. You have nothing. You can sue him, but he's the majority decision maker, so on and so on. They were bowled over. They said this whole time, we've been told we were a lender with a first lien position. I said, did you have anybody look at the paperwork? Well, no, we trusted him. He's a friend of ours. I said, well, not anymore, he's not. Not anymore, he's not, and you're not a lender. Now, that particular couple, the wife of that couple, is quite the bulldog. And she fought for 3 years and got all that money back with the exception of about $100,000 in legal fees that she had to spend to get it back. And she turned that person into Department of Justice and all sorts of people, and he got in trouble. But not everybody's a bulldog like her. Know your paperwork. Know the type of relationship. Are you a JV partner with someone? And I put partner in quotes because partner, for us lawyers, is a legal term. When you're in a JV, you do not want to be a legal partner with someone because a legal partnership makes each general partner liable for the acts of the other. I don't want to be liable for my JV partner. I'm putting in the money, they're doing the work. I don't want to be liable. So if I'm doing a JV agreement, for instance, I'm going to have a sentence in that agreement that says specifically, this shall not be deemed a general partnership. I'm going to make it clear as day. So know whether you're in a JV partnership. Are you in a real partnership? If you're in a real partnership, are you the general partner with all the power and all the liability? Or are you a limited partner with little to no power and no liability? You got to know that. Are you a borrower-lender relationship? Do you have the right type of paperwork for that? Are you a flipper and a contractor? Are you a syndicated lender, a syndication limited partner? Are you a member of a fund? Are you a buyer, seller? You see where I'm going? There are a million different kind of relationships in real estate investing. And if you don't understand the nature of your relationship, you can't properly vet the paperwork, the deal structure, or the people. Because you've got to understand where you stand in that deal. So know the rights and obligations for each type of relationship and use the right documents. So we're going to talk about vetting a few of these types of relationships. I don't have time to go over every single one of them, but let's talk about vetting your business or your JV partner. You should vet everybody you do business with, even your friends and family, and sometimes most especially your friends and family. Because in my experience, sometimes friends and family who somehow get their own agenda at some point, they either come into the deal with it or they discover it later, they take advantage of you. Well, I can do this. She's my friend. She's my sister. It's no big deal. And you can get really royally screwed that way. So vet everybody. Do Google searches, social media searches. By the way, for those of you who might want to work with me, I'm going to tell you right now, if your Facebook profile is nasty, mean, and vitriolic, I will not work with you. I will not work with you. If you're mean to people, you're not in my life. I don't want you in my life. I'm going to be so transparent about that. So John Heyer is mean as a shtick, but he is beautiful inside, so I would work with John, and he's brilliant. He purposely comes across as mean just because it makes his presentations funnier. Okay, so do your background checks if you can. Check references from people who've worked with them before. There is a Facebook group, the REI Blacklist group. I've looked on that before. There are people who have done bad things that are on them. I don't know if everybody who's been listed on there has done bad things, but if you see a name, then do some further research on that person. Ask the person who wants to do business with you about any prior business partnerships or deals they had. If they went south, how did they handle it? What was the communication like? Why did that partnership end? How did they handle conflict? Ask the hard questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. If someone, by the way, gets offended because you're asking questions, you don't want to do business with them. All right, do not do a deal with someone just because they're a guru or they stand up at the front of the room. I would never want you to either invest with me or borrow from me because I'm standing up here. You need to vet me on my own, merits, not just because I'm up here. Personality can be deceiving. In fact, most of the scammers who've come to light in the last few years have been amazingly charming, gregarious. They're everybody's friend. You believe them. In fact, a recent one who stole $30 million or more from people, I would have invested with him if he asked me, probably, if I hadn't done my due diligence. Because on his personality alone, I would have said, oh my gosh, yes, I would never believe that guy would be anything but gold. Anyway, verify then trust. You can ask for tax returns. People don't like to give them, but if somebody asks me, I'm going to give my tax returns. If they need to know whether I can fund a deal, for instance, or whatever, I'll give them some information. If you're doing a business with someone, have a well-drafted, appropriate type of agreement, and who drafted it? Did the other person's attorney draft it and they're only representing their interest? If so, did you have your own attorney look at it to look out for your interests? Don't just trust the person who drafted it or their attorney. Make sure your interests are taken care of. I can't tell you how many times in 30-some years I've had clients that I've done agreements for, and I've said, okay, what questions do you have about the agreement? They came in to sign. Nothing. You don't have a single question? No, I didn't read it. I'm just going to sign it. I'm like, what do you mean you didn't read it? Well, I trust you. Don't trust me. Read the agreement. Read the trust. Read every word. Especially when you guys are signing legal documents like contracts and such, you're going to be held accountable for what's in that document. So if you don't know what every word is, somebody could slip in a sentence that puts you in a bad situation later. So know what you're signing. Watch out for 50-50 deals. What happens if a 50-50 deal goes bad? Who even gets to hire the lawyer to try to resolve it? Nobody. You're in a deadlock. Unless your agreement has a deadlock provision where you say, okay, well, if we can't agree, the two of us, at a 50-50 deal, here's how we're going to resolve that. Some tiebreaker mechanism. Many of us in this room have 50-50 partnerships, me included. Make sure there's a tie break in there. If you are in a deal with someone else, who has access to the bank accounts or the bank statements or anything else? Make sure that you're not so passive in a deal that you can't get information. How is this deal structured for tax purposes? If you're going into a JV with someone, who gets to write off the expenses on their tax return? And who has to report all the income? And make sure those things are consistent. If not, then the deal needs to be structured differently. Again, don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. If I'm in a partnership with someone and we're doing deals, whether it's JV or a real partnership, and money's coming in, I want that money payable to the partnership, not to one partner or the other. Make sure it gets paid to the partnership. Have financial oversight over all monies going out. Know what is happening. Don't let anybody just take money out of the business for their personal expenses. That's bad on a number of levels. But if you don't know and you find out later that your partner has been taking out money for their own personal expenses and bankrupted the business without you knowing, you're going to feel kind of stupid. So pay attention. Look at the bank statements. Know what's going on. Okay. Who knows what a syndication is or is in a syndication, right? A lot of people. So in a syndication, usually they're special purpose LLCs set up, say, to invest in an apartment building for one thing or whatever. And there are some great syndications out there with great sponsors. But when you buy into a syndication, you have no collateral. Everything that's protecting you is basically based on that sponsor and how well they handle things and how well they treat you. So it's not like a loan where you have a first lien position on real estate. So when you're going into a syndication for an apartment building, I think Anna Kelly's in the room, she does that, and she's amazing. Make sure you ask the questions because you have to know about that sponsor. You know, who are the sponsors? How many deals have they done in their career? How many deals of that type have they done? What's their track record? How many, look at their past performance data. How well did these things perform? Did they treat their syndicated owners the way they said they were going to in terms of how much they paid out? Ask about references from prior investors. Are the sponsors investing in the deal personally? Like in my I don't have a fund yet, but in my lending company, I'm in every deal. I have money, probably at least 50% in every single loan we do. It's my money. So I'm not going to do anything to risk my money. So if you're in the deal with me, hopefully you're safe because I'm going to watch my money very carefully. What percentage of the equity is coming from that sponsor? 1%, 50%, 10%? How much skin do they have in the game? Because if things go south, you don't want them to say, I've only got $10,000 in this deal, I'm going to walk away. All right. What are the liquidity events that will result in the return of your capital? What are the plans? Are they going to sell this building, refinance this building? How are they going to get your money out? When is that going to happen, expected? What's the expected return? See, all these questions, there are a million questions, and you can figure out probably what you should ask, but make sure you ask the sponsor. And a good sponsor will have no problem giving that information. Anna, are you in the room? Or any other sponsors? Would you agree with that? Yeah, she agrees. Absolutely. You have the right to vet your deals, and that means vetting the sponsors in a syndication. All right, how long will your money be locked in a deal? I've seen people get in trouble because they don't read the private placement memorandum or other documents that say, hey, we're not going to give anybody's capital back for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 3 years, whatever it is. And people like a year and a half like, okay, I'm ready to do something different. I have ADD in the investing world. I'd like my money back. I'm going to go do this other shiny object thing. And they realize they can't get it back that easily. So make sure you know. If they're investing in real property in the syndication, go check out the site. Is it a storage development? Go check out the site. Apartment buildings, look at things as if you were buying it yourself. I'm not going to go through all of these, but just look through, you can read these. Think of all the questions you would want to know before you put your money with someone. So let's say you're a lender and you want to vet a borrower. This is my next category. Again, verify, then trust. I'm going to do a quick Google search. People might get offended. I want to see what they're like. I'm going to look the REI blacklist. I'm going to reserve the right to do a background check or a credit check. I don't always do that. In fact, I rarely do it because I've been working with people I know very well. But I reserve the right to do that to make sure that this person is somebody who's going to be good to work with. My buddy Dave Steck had a guy who wanted to borrow a lot of money, and his credit was great, everything was great, but he had like 20 seatbelt infractions in a year. And Dave said, well, I'm not going to loan to you. The guy's like, what are you talking about? I have stellar financial records and credit. He said, yeah, but you obviously don't think you have to follow rules. And we have rules as lenders. We have big rules. And if you're going to break the seatbelt law 20 times in a year and get a ticket for it, God knows how many times you've actually broken the law, I'm not going to work with you. The guy was flabbergasted, but Dave said, nope, sorry, you're not my guy. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. So verify a borrower's experience. Now, we've loaned to first-time flippers plenty of times. But what do they have that makes them able to do this? What's their education about flipping? Who are their mentors? Who's helping them? What skill set do they have? Look at what they've done. If they've done past deals, I want them to give me information to verify it. I don't always ask for it, but in a perfect world, I would. I used to do that. Jim knows because I made him fill out one when he was my first-time borrower many years ago. Tell me about the deals you did in the last year. What'd you buy them for? What'd you put in rehab? What'd you sell it for? What entity did you sell it in? Because I want to look in the courthouse records to see if you're lying to me. Ask the hard questions. All right, make sure your paperwork actually reflects the deal and the terms of the loan. A lot of times people will have an attorney just prepare the documents and they trust the documents are right. I've reviewed loan documents. No, that's not the right interest rate. That's not even the right borrower. You've just used a template and put the wrong person's name in there. So you got to vet paperwork. This last one's important. Verify who can sign for the entity. If only one member, for instance, of an LLC is signing for the entity, how do you know they have the authority to sign for their other members? Right? You either need to see the operating agreement that says they have the authority, or you need to see a resolution signed by all the members granting that member the authority. And by the way, I get personal guarantees, and all the members have to sign the personal guarantees. All right. Never, ever, ever, when you're loaning money to buy a property, never send it directly to the borrower's bank account. Never. Capital, bold, underline, never. Send it to a verified closing agent, attorney's office, or title company. Why do I say verified? Because a lot of scammers right now are setting up fake title companies. So just because you get some instructions on pretty title company letterhead doesn't mean it's a real title company. Check the Secretary of State's website. How long has that been in business? Check the Better Business Bureau. Google it. Do anything you can to figure out if that's a real business. By the way, when we pay draws, because we'll hold construction holdbacks, we will send those draws directly to the borrower, but we don't send the purchase funds. We require lien waivers for draws, so we make sure that if we're sending money to the borrower is actually using that to pay the contractors and subs on that job. All right? It is much less risky to have the borrower pay you monthly interest payments and points up front. It keeps your loan to value down low. You start to know if all of a sudden they're struggling to make monthly payments, that maybe they're getting themselves in trouble, and you can step in and help. We don't always require that because we're kind of a boutique lending firm at this point, and we have the flexibility to try to work with borrowers if they need us to finance in the points or finance in the interest. Makes the loan a little bit more expensive for that borrower, but as long as we can keep our loan to value at a decent level, and that we're not going into a class on that today, then we will try to work with borrowers. But the least risky is to have your borrower pay the interest and the points as you go. This first bullet point is one of the main reasons that I'm thrilled that Patty Bain is working with me in my lending company, because Patty is a Class A contractor. She's been a contractor in several states, and she now looks at all the scopes of work to see if they're reasonable. And we've had several newer borrowers that their scopes of work were not right, and Patty picked up on it and was able to actually save that borrower from doing a really bad deal. We lost a lot of money. We would have gotten paid. We actually talked borrowers out of borrowing money from us because we're like, your margins are too skinny. You're missing $60,000 worth of work in your scope of work. So you need to look at a scope of work and know enough to know if something looks crazy. Like if someone says, I'm going to gut and redo this entire massive kitchen for $4,000, you say, no, you're not. No, you're not. Right? And if they say that and they argue with you, then you kind of got to question their experience. Make sure that the borrower has contingencies in their budget, that they have multiple exit strategies in case they can't sell it. Ask for references from former lenders. Why don't they work with those former lenders anymore? Are those lenders just tapped out and don't have the money to deploy, or did something go wrong and they're like, yeah, we're not working with that borrower anymore? Ask to speak to the former lenders. Stay in touch with your borrower during the loan. Check in with them. How's your project going? Is there anything we can help you with? You know, Patty does that. Now she's calling our borrowers. What can I help you with? All right. Vetting lenders. Now let's go the other way. Let's say you're a borrower and you want to know whether a lender is good to work with. How many people have seen things on Facebook that you're like, I think that's a fake lender? Right? All these, hey, we loan at 5%, 100% financing, no money down, blah, 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 right? Be very, very careful. You have to vet your lenders just like we vet borrowers. So check to make sure the lender operates under a legally registered business entity. Look up the business name in the Secretary of State's database. Ask for a list of past deals funded, and you can verify them with the borrowers or with the public records. All right? Like, we have plenty of deeds of trust under Fair Oaks funding. Go look in the Register of Deeds, you'll see it. We've done a lot, and they're the certificates of satisfaction that says we've been paid back and we released the deed of trust on the property. Search for online reviews, testimonials. You're not going to find much with us because we just opened this company in December or November of last year. But ask for references. Search in the county court records for the lender's name and look for lawsuits. Look for fraud cases. Look up bankruptcy or foreclosure. Just see if you see, well, who is this lender? Run a Google search and the word scam with the lender's name to see if something comes up. If they're in a state where a private lender has to be licensed, and I don't know which states those are, but ask if they're licensed. If the lender raises money for a fund, we don't do that ourselves yet, but make sure they actually have the right paperwork filed with the SEC, or they've got their private placement memorandum, all the documents that say they're really operating a fund and they're not just trying to get your money. All right, avoid lenders with excessive upfront fees, like, hey, you give us $2,000 and then we'll take a look at whether we're going to fund you. We'll apply it to the loan, but you have to send us $2,000 up front. Who says that sounds like a scam? All right, don't do that. There will be closing costs, there will be admin fees, underwriting fees, wire fees. Those are all normal, but they happen at the closing table, not up front. They happen at the closing table. If you don't know whether your lender really has the money, ask for proof of funds. Do you have the money to lend me? Where are you getting this money? Is it a line of credit? Is it in your own bank account? Is it your sister's money? Is it, under the mattress? Where are you getting this money? And if a lender keeps delaying your funding and asking for more fees, that's also a big red flag. If you need a fast close, you need to confirm the lender's typical time frame. And one thing I want to say about rates and points and fees, because I've seen this happen a lot. People tend to rate shop just based on interest rates and points. Like, okay, you're 11.3, you're 12.5. We're going to go with the 11.3. But the 11% and 3 points lender may not charge any big fees. Whereas the 11 and 3 may charge lots of big fees, where the 12 and 4 doesn't, or the 12 and 5 doesn't. So compare apples to apples. Make sure you ask what all the fees are. Ask a lender if they ever were late funding a deal, if they ever failed to close a deal, why, what happened. Because for me, and I've been doing this for 21, 22 years, I've never not funded a deal that I've said I'm going to fund. Once I underwrite it and say, yes, I'm going to fund that deal, I've never left anybody high and dry. I would want to know my lender was the same way. Now, that could change if the borrower didn't give me the right information, but assuming good information. These are some of the red flags. If somebody pressures you to sign quickly, they don't want you to review documents, be very, very careful. Will somebody help me keep track of the time? How long do I have? Till 9:15, Jim? 9:30? 9:15? Okay. We got to go quicker then. All right, contractors. I got tons of slides on contractors. I don't know if Jim will show the slides, so I'm not going to go through every single one. But remember, when you're dealing with a contractor, if you're a flipper, you should have a written contract and a very detailed line item by line item scope of work. Patty will tell you that so many times if contractors don't give a line item scope of work, a bid, you don't know whether, especially if you're comparing bids, you don't know whether this bid is equal to that bid. Because if somebody just gives you a lump sum, you don't know if it has all the things in it that the line item budget should have in it. So have a contract, get a detailed scope of work. All these things can save you a lot of money. Make sure your contractor is licensed if it's necessary in your state. Make sure if they're doing an LLC that it's a real LLC. Have they changed their address 15 times in the last year? Are they trying to run away from someone? Request proof that they have insurance, general liability insurance, workers' comp if they have employees. And if they're using subs, make sure those subs have proper insurance. We like to ask for, not we, I'm not the flipper, but Patty, ask for references from past clients. Call those past clients. How'd this contractor do? Let me see the before and after photos. Can I come see your active job site, see what it looks like? Is it trashed? Is it clean? Does this contractor respond to your requests for communication? How many projects have they done like yours? What's their experience? How long have they been in business? Read their reviews, check Bigger Pockets, real estate groups, all of that. Look for patterns of complaints. Man, this contractor delayed my job by 3 months. This contractor overcharges. This poor workmanship. These are all the things that will kill you when you go to sell the property if the house is not renovated properly, if it's 3 months behind and you've had all those holding costs. So feel free to ask these questions and have a written contract that has everything in it. What I have found as a lawyer, and I bet Jeff can back me up on this, Jeff Watson, is that when people come into a contract ahead of time, whether that's an operating agreement or a real estate contract or a contractor contract. When you put it in writing up front, when you don't know whether you're going to be the person who wants to breach the contract or the innocent party, it tends to be more fair. Contracts tend to be more fair when you're both writing it up front. And once something's in writing, you usually go, oh, that's not what I meant. We did not have a meeting of the minds there. But if you're just chatting, it's so easy to not realize you didn't have a meeting of the minds. So put everything in writing. I'm not going to go through all the details. Set a fair payment schedule, and don't pay everything 100% up front to your contractor unless it's a tiny job. Request lien waivers, we talked about that. We like to know if our contractors are professional in the way they act. Do they return our calls? Do they keep the job site clean? Are they transparent with what's going on? Do they show up on time? Things like that. All right, check for red flags. You guys can read this. Anytime someone doesn't want to sign a contract gives me pause. Why? Why don't they want to have something in writing? I'm going to put my name to it. Why wouldn't they put their name to it? All right, I'm going to go on for the contractors, so we're going to run out of time. As you can see, lots of slides. You need to vet your professionals as well. Your lawyers, your CPAs, whatever. Ask the hard questions. If you're going to a real estate lawyer, are they brand new in the business? Do they know what they're doing? How many closings have they done? Or, pick a topic, whatever it is. Are they drafting your contractor contract? Have they ever drafted one before? Call several attorneys, get a feel for how their office works. Ask how they bill you. You want to know about that. Review your bills carefully. We found mistakes. Mistakes happen. Sometimes it's innocent, but make sure you know what you're paying. Ask who's going to work on your matter. If you think you're hiring the big dog and really you're hiring her paralegal, you want to know that. You need to set your expectations appropriately. And do not tolerate poor communication. That sets everybody up for a problem. This is a key one I want to make sure we get through, so that's why I'm kind of hurrying. We want to vet the paperwork. Your paperwork literally can make you or break you. So I said I've been lending for 21, 22 years. I think I started in 2003 or 4. Can't remember exactly. I've probably funded $20-some million worth of loans at least. 7 just last year. I've never had to take a property back. I've had to threaten it twice, but I've never had to take it back. And when I had to threaten it, so one, good underwriting, but when I had to threaten it, I wasn't the least bit worried. Why? Because my paperwork was rock solid, and I knew it. I knew it. I knew that I'd get that house back without any problem. If my paperwork hadn't been solid, I might have lost those deals. But the borrowers knew my paperwork was solid, so they didn't mess around, right? They got me refinanced out or paid me. Paperwork. Always use paperwork. Do not ever, 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 ever do a handshake deal with anybody. Not your best friend, not your mom, not your kid, nobody. Nobody. I do stuff with my kids. We have to sign documents. I'm in LLCs with 2 of my kids. There's an operating agreement. They got to sign it. They got to agree to everything, or I'm not going to do a deal with them. Prepare the paperwork at the beginning of the deal. This is what I was saying a minute ago. Before there's a dispute, we don't know what the circumstances are going to be. Your paperwork's going to be more fair if you do it up front. If you are not an attorney, or even if you are, but you don't specialize in that space, have an attorney prepare your paperwork or at least review it, at least until you're super familiar with all your paperwork. It's amazing to me how the law is not intuitive. And you may read something and think it makes total sense, but under the law, it's vague and unenforceable or whatever, and you're not going to have good paperwork. So make sure you use your professionals. Vet that paperwork every time. Use the right paperwork every time. You have to know the relationship you're in. Is it a joint venture? You got a joint venture agreement. Is it a partnership? You have a partnership agreement. Is it an LLC? You have an operating agreement. Is it a loan? You've got a note and a deed of trust or mortgage. Is it a trust? What type of trust? You've got to know all that stuff. Again, read every word and understand what you're signing because you will be held accountable for what you sign. We talked about making sure everything's signed by the right people. Does that particular document have to be notarized? Like a deed or an assignment or something? Make sure it's notarized. It's need to be recorded. Make sure it gets recorded. Who's going to keep the originals? Make sure you either know where the originals are, you have copies, and if you don't have them, that you can get to the originals if you need to. And by the way, if you do keep originals, I was told by firefighter clients that the safest place to keep your original documents in your home is in a fireproof box in your freezer, because the freezer is the last thing that will burn in your house. So keep them in a fireproof place if possible. Have an organized filing system. This has gotten me, so I'm like, oh, where's that note? Where's that note? Oh man, I don't know. Do I have the original? Do I have the copy? So have an organized filing system. Don't be me. Well, I'm better now, by the way, but don't be me. I now scan everything. I have originals, notes kept in either a safe or safety deposit box, depending on where I am. But I scan everything into Dropbox. I have Dropbox files for everything. So now I just had to foreclose on a house for a note I bought, not a loan I made. And that, the lawyer kept asking me for documents. I'm like, yep, right here. I had it all filed in my Dropbox, so it made it a lot easier. Oops, am I going backwards again? Yep. Okay. When you vet the property, you're going to be looking at a lot of different things. Most of you guys vet the property probably even better than I do, so I'm going to go through this pretty fast. But you always want to look at the area. What's the market like? Why are people coming to that area? Are housing prices going up? Are they going down? Are populations increasing or decreasing? Are there jobs in the area? What's the crime rate? You know, you want to look at all that stuff. I've never checked the sex offender list, but someone suggested this, that if let's say you're buying a rental, look to see what's around. Are you going to be able to rent it to families with small children if they check the sex offender list? So just check some of these things. Oh, there's one on the back slide. Will your buyer be able to get financing? That first flip I told you that did not go really well. It was a manufactured home, and I didn't realize, this was 20 years ago, I did not realize that nobody was going to be able to get financing at the time on that home. So I renovated, I did all this great work. It's a beautiful home now. I had to wait for a cash buyer, and I had to drop the price to get a cash buyer. So know that your ultimate buyer can get financing. All right, we talked about the attorney and the title insurance. I'm not going to go through that. These are websites. You guys might want to take a picture of this that you can look at to determine demographics and crime rates and businesses and all that type of stuff. So give everybody a second to take that. Put on some lip gloss. Who was in the room when I put on lip gloss a year or two ago and laughed at me for what I said? I'm not going to say that again, in case you remember it. Anyway, okay. This is an important one. How do you avoid scammers, cheats, and psychopaths? And by the way, I had to look up the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath because I didn't know. And based on the scammers that I'm aware of, they're psychopaths, not sociopaths, so if you care to know the difference. And there's my thank you to John Heyer and Vina Jones-Cox for making sure that I did not forget anything. And remember, their talk was over 2 hours, and it was excellent. Mine is like 10 minutes. So, when is it a scam? Not every bad deal is a scam. It's a scam if someone intends to scam you. They intend to steal from you, cheat you, commit fraud. It's when it can be a scam if it starts off well, but someone gets over their head and then turns it into a Ponzi scheme to get more money from some other unsuspecting sucker to pay off the old suckers. And they just keep rolling it until one day that house of cards falls down and it becomes evident that it was a giant Ponzi scheme. So how do you avoid these things? First of all, you have to look at ways that scammers manipulate people. Oftentimes they're extremely charming. They make you feel very comfortable with them. You have something in common. They think you're awesome. They build you up. They compliment you. They see something special in you. They go to the same church, they're in the same area, they live in the same town, they're on your same street, whatever it is. For me, oh, I'm a woman too. Okay, well, that doesn't mean you're not a scammer. You know, we got to vet you too. They convince you that they're the authority. You should trust me because I do this better than anyone in the country and I know what I'm talking about, right? I'm your guru, not just your teacher, I'm your guru. So some of these people are excellent in all these categories. Like, I would never scam anybody. You can believe that or not, but I promise you I will not sleep well if I did that. And most of these people are probably really good in these groups, but oftentimes this is where the scammers lurk in these groups. They use emotional manipulation. They play on your sympathy. Oh man, I really need this done. I got to get it done now. Really need your help. You're the only one who can help me, right? They make you feel special. They make you feel like you owe them something. Well, I did this for you, so you need to do this for me, right? Who's had that happen? Right? It's terrible. They embarrass you. What do you mean you need a week to review the paperwork? I thought you were better than that. I thought you were smart. You just need to do this now. I'm in a hurry. Hurry up, right? They want everything fast. They don't want you to review it. Maybe they want you to pay monies up front before any work is done. They want you to send money directly to them and not through a closing agent. They don't want to show you any of their paperwork. You don't need to worry about that. We've got people that take care of all of that. Our people handle the paperwork. And then, by the way, the scammer who took $30 million off people, paperwork wasn't getting to the investors, but they were busy people, a lot of professionals, people aren't paying, they trusted him. His team was taking care of everything. Then when things started to get a little squirrely, they're like, can I have my paperwork? You didn't get your paperwork? Oh my gosh, let me investigate that. You know what, we hired somebody and they just didn't do their job right. I'm sorry I didn't, we'll get that paperwork out to you this week. Do you think it ever showed up? No. So I got a lot of those calls from people who said, what do I do? What do I do? My first thing was, well, send me the paperwork you have. I got to see what the paperwork looks like. So I got several people. They sent me paperwork. There are no signatures on anything. I said, well, where's the signed copy? Well, we didn't get any signed copies. What do you mean you didn't get a signed copy? Right? Turns out this guy was selling properties he didn't own. He didn't own. He didn't own them. So nobody was doing title searches. Nobody was doing anything. And in the last few weeks before he disappeared from the country, nobody's found him yet, all of a sudden he was offering a lot more properties for sale. Man, I got 10 deals today. And I have a friend who got scammed by him, and she's like, I should have wondered why all of a sudden we were getting 1 or 2 opportunities a month, and now we're getting 10 in each week, the last 2 or 3 weeks, right? Red flags, you guys. Got to pay attention to the red flags. All right, people who are doing something wrong don't want to be questioned. So when you get pushed back on the questions, think very carefully about doing deals with them. Ask the hard questions. And how do they treat people that they're not trying to get money from? Dave Barry, a columnist, I think out of Atlanta, I'm not sure where he was actually, said, if your date is nice to you but rude to the waiter, they're not a nice person, right? How do they treat people that they aren't trying to get something from? Watch them. Be observers, students of human behavior. Watch their body language. What do? If that deal seemed too good to be true, it probably is. There are some really great deals, but those ones that these people always have the deals that are too good to be true, they probably are. If they're going to provide all the due diligence for you, you don't need to worry about a thing. My team has done all this due diligence. Here's the packet. Trust us. Don't trust them. If the paperwork seems too simple for the deal, question that. Question that. I used to have clients, I might hand them an 80-page trust, and they'd be like, oh, this is complex. I would say, no, it's not. It's complete. Everything that needs to be in there is in there, and nothing that doesn't need to be in there is in there. It's complete, not complex. It may seem complex to you because you're not a lawyer, but it's complete. They don't want to give you references, things like that. If nobody has a physical address, that always makes me a little bit nervous. I mean, I run a backpack business, but I still have a physical address if someone wants it. They can find me. If they don't have an actual company or all their employees are family members, we probably all employ our family members in some way. But if they've never had any other employee, I'd just question it. All right, so look for red flags, where I think we're about out of time. Make sure that the documents are right for the deal the potential scammer is putting you in. If you're in a loan, make sure you're getting a note and a deed of trust. If you're supposed to be owning the asset directly, do a title search. If they're selling you an actual property. If you're supposed to have ownership in an entity, like a share of an LLC, make sure who owns that asset, who controls that LLC, who can write the checks, who can wire money, all of those things. How your investment is papered up will dictate your legal recourse if something goes wrong. So you have to make sure it's the right paperwork for the right deal. We've talked about all this other stuff. All right, this is a big one. You guys probably seen people, I'm the only one that knows how to do this deal. I mentioned that earlier. Run from those people. Or if the numbers don't jive with your own research. If someone says, I need you to fund this rental property because I can get $3,800 a month in rent. And you look at the Zillow listings or any other listings for that neighborhood and you say, wait a minute, the rent's like $1,400. Where are you getting $3,800? Well, I know what I'm doing. It's my special sauce, as Vina and John said. It's my special sauce. I do it better. Check your own numbers. Make sure it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, ask questions. And if they don't answer them to your satisfaction, walk away. All right, if they have a huge deal flow, I mentioned that one a little while ago. Sometimes we all have good deal flow, we all have bad deal flow, but if someone constantly has 10 houses to sell you every week, be careful. All right, best practices, I think we've talked about most of that, so I'm going to go through this quickly. Yeah, trust your gut. Trust your gut. I have learned, and I'm almost 62 years old, I have learned in my lifetime, which I didn't used to believe me, my gut is almost always right. I can't tell you why it's right. I might meet someone and I just get this little ick factor. I'm like, something's off. I can't tell you why. Everybody else might love that person. But I'm like, there's something wrong. I don't know what it is. And every single time I felt that, something has come up later and I've been right. There was something off with that person. So I'm trying to learn to trust my gut. You should too. So the bottom line is do all the due diligence we discussed today. It seems like a lot. It gets faster, I promise. Right, Tony Williams? Gets faster? Yeah? Do it. Don't skip the steps. Don't rush the steps. You'll be so thankful that you did. With the right risk management, you can truly become limitless. Be limitless. And if you need to connect with me, I think that might take you to my Popl account. I'm not really sure where it goes, to be honest with you. We've had some QR codes flying around as we've been doing our marketing the last week, so you tell me where it goes. I don't know. It'll be fun to find out. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
All right. How'd you guys like that, huh? No, Mary, stay up here for a sec. All right, come on over here. Over here, it's good. Come on over here, it's fine. Did you guys enjoy that? Who had like an aha moment or something that you need to remember leaving this today? Here we go. All right, we'll get you both. Here you go. Tell us your name and where you're from.
Oh, hey, I'm Charlene Carroll from North Carolina. So, I got a lot of aha moments, but for sake of time, that we can do our due diligence by looking on the Secretary of State website, thank you, yeah, and other things that we can go to the courthouse and look for to verify either the borrower or the contractor or whatever.
Good, I love seeing you use that journal too. Who had one over here? Okay.
Wendell Long, Charlotte, North Carolina, verify then trust.
That's a big one, isn't it? Anyone else got one? Okay, here we go. Tell us, hey Adam, tell us like where you're from and your name. Austin.
Hey, Austin Stables. I'm based in Richmond, not from Richmond, as you can probably hear. I'm from Scotland. I was very, very nearly a victim of a scammer recently, so all of that was like a slap in the face.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate all of it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, been there, done that. I've had my share of some scars.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I've always been trusting and verifying, and so after the fact. So a lot of movement in my life has just been able to really validate and talk to other people and just learn more about other folks, especially through the journeys that I've been through. So I'm excited to actually just start implementing more versus just keeping and not being scared to ask questions, because that is an imposter syndrome that I run into of asking questions of other things that are going on. So
And
thank you
remember,
for
if
that.
someone thinks you're stupid, they're stupid.
Yeah, there's a lot of the whole "do you trust me" thing, and I was like, oh, there we go. I loved that.
Yeah, nobody should ever think anybody's stupid. We all
Yeah.
start somewhere, and if you don't know it, ask the question.
Yeah, I don't mind asking questions. I just need to get out of my own way to ask those questions.
Right.
So thank
Don't
you
we
for
all?
that.
Don't we all? Yeah.
Sharon's looking for some work too. Talk to her this week. She's an amazing singer and a great opportunity for somebody.
Seriously appreciate everything that you taught us today. I'm kind of a newer person in this industry, right? And I found out
Hope you don't have any questions.
I found out about an organization or this girl, she set up a company where she vets anybody and everybody in the real estate investment community. And she does the background check, she does the deep dive, everything, right? She is so overwhelmed with business, I reached out to her to get help to try and vet somebody that I'm working with, and she wasn't able to help me. So there's a business idea for anybody. I can't do it, but somebody in this room might be able to do it, where you're able to set up a business that you can vet real estate investment industry professionals to have a network, and you can go and know that they're vetted.
And I would vet that person, make sure they're not getting paid by
You
bad
gotta
actors to give a good
vet
review.
The vetter. You gotta vet
That's
the
my
vetter.
skeptical nature. And
Vet
who
the
are you
vetter.
to do the background
Yeah.
checks? But yes, good business
job.
model if they're doing it the right way.
Time for one more.
Jane's
Is
got-
Lindsay,
Jane's got one.
you're almost ready. Who's got one?
Jane Stocker.
Oh, hey, Jane. Jane goes all the way back to the beginning of Dealmaker. I'm so grateful. Here you go.
Hi, Jane Stecker, known Jim forever, and Fredericksburg, Virginia. I just want to make a comment. So much came through, some that you didn't get to cover.
So much I
If
couldn't
people think that you don't need to do all these steps, you think again, because it's getting more serious.
More serious for sure.
So anybody that says 90 days to whatever, run.
Yeah, yeah, it's really serious. And as the market softens, as things, who's it? Warren Buffett who says, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked, right?
That's a fact.
So I think we're starting to see some people swim naked right now. We thought they were
Can't
fully
unsee
clothed
that.
and had great bodies, and really they have terrible bodies and they're naked, and there are all sorts of bad things happening. So just, be careful.
And we don't want to see a lot of people naked.
You don't want to see me naked. Me
No.
naked, that's for sure.
Darlene Root, Naples, Florida, Dealmaker, Southwest Florida. Woo! You and I have talked about the deal. I've been in the business. This is my 46th year. Is that all? That's it. I know.
You look like you're 36,
Thank
so I don't know
you.
how you've been in the business this long.
Good genes. One of the things that you and I had talked about the deal that went really sideways is even though you're in the business brand new or you've been in the business for 46 years, don't get lazy. This deal happened, I got lazy, I rested on my laurels, and lost a ton of money. So just like a pilot, I'm getting my pilot's license. Every time we get in an aircraft, we check.
Checklists.
Even when you're on an airplane, a flight attendant will say cross-check and all call, meaning they have to check every single time. So have your checklist, check it twice, gonna find out who's naughty or nice.
That's right. And I would add to that, it's not even just getting lazy on different deals, but let's say you've worked with the same person 10, 15, 20 times. You still need to ask the questions and check because
life happens.
Yeah, I mean, I have lender friends who had borrowers, they had done 50 deals with them and they were perfect for years and years and years. And then one thing happened and everything went south and had to take back a lot of
I had one
properties.
like that, Mary. It was one divorce, and then all of a sudden I was taking a house back.
Yeah.
After like 6 or 8
one
deals.
Thing.
One
medical
thing. By the way, if
situation, a divorce.
you've been involved with fraud and somebody has taken advantage of you, Darlene is great on fraud recovery mindset. Would you agree? Would you be willing to talk to somebody this week? So, because it gets in your mind and it'll prevent you from moving forward. So I just throw that out there too. Okay, how was Mary Hart?
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Love it. Okay, come on up. Now, we've got a really great session this time. This really started my thinking a year ago when Leon Johnson was with us. By the way, who loves Leon and Adam? We're going to hope and we're going to pray they're back with us next year. Both of them are having some medical challenges right now. So keep them in your prayers. They could both use it. And I'll just leave it at that. But they do plan to come back next year. But we talked a good amount about master leasing, arbitrage, sandwich leasing. It's got all these names. But ultimately, it's about controlling property without ever owning it. You're going to hear from Lindsay Jensen from beautiful Colorado. Anyone else spend time in Colorado? All right. And how she built an amazing rental portfolio and became financially free in about 6 or 7 years. Would you like to hear that story? Okay. Woo, they're ready, aren't they?
Thank you.
So on your feet and a big round of applause for Lindsay Jensen.
Do I just use this? Hello. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited, and I do hear the echo, Mary, up here. I first want to ask you guys, tell me why you're here today. Why do you come to these? What is your end goal? To network, okay?
Raise your hand and I'll bring
Golden
you the
nuggets?
mic. Golden nuggets. Who loves some nuggets? I know Jeff Watson loves Chick-fil-A